Hey everybody, Dr. Tim Turlip here with this week's 3 Minutes to Vitality. So this week we're going to talk about something that, I won't use the bad, but I'm going to use it anyway, that might be considered kind of a poopy subject. And we're going to talk about something that's referred to as probiotics. Most of us have heard of probiotics, which are actually bacteria. Biosis means life, pro means for. So it's a system that's for life, or an organism for life. And what we really specifically are talking about is the bacteria that fill our colon. Now, there's actually some common statistics that are floated around with regard to the number of human cells relative to the number of bacteria in our colons or even on our bodies. Current estimate actually in the last couple of years, which is pretty amazing, is that the number of cells, actual cells in your and my body, is somewhere around 37 trillion cells. That's a lot of cells of various cell types, whether it's skin, heart, lung, bone, brain, neurologic. There's so many different types of cells, but 37 trillion. And the number of bacteria that are in our colon, sometimes you might have heard the statistic where people will say that there's 10 times more bacteria in our colons than there are cells in our bodies. Well, that's been around since the mid-70s, and actually current estimates have actually revised that thinking, and the latest thoughts are that it's probably between 30 and 50% more than the number of cells in our bodies, based on, we won't figure out how exactly you account for the number of bacteria in your colon. I really don't want to, I do know, but we don't want to get into it. It's nothing messy, right? But it's somewhere between 45 and 60 trillion. Right? So, our entire body with the bacteria in our colon and the cells in our bodies is somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 90 trillion cells. Wow, that's a lot. And we actually have significantly more, 30 to 50% more bacteria in our colons than we do cells of the body. Now, why is this important and why do we care? Because in our office, one of the central things that we try to use for people when we have to use supplementation, sometimes called nutraceuticals, is a probiotic supplement. We have one of the finest on the market today, actually, that has 14 different strains of bacteria, and there's 50 billion bacteria in every one capsule. Very potent. When you look at somewhere between 40 and 55 trillion cells, 50 billion just ain't that much, just isn't that much. But to do it daily over a long period of time is important. So why is it important? And what specifically do we want to talk about? And that's inflammation. The two reasons why we provide it to our patients on a consistent basis, and why I take it every day, why all of my 3 daughters take it every day, my wife, my mother, and everybody I care about. Maybe not my mother-in-law. No, I'm kidding, right? But we have those other people who actually take this every single day for 2 reasons. One is actually immune function. The second is actually for inflammation in the body. So there was a study released in a journal called Nutrients, where they did a fancy thing called a meta-analysis, which is a combination of a bunch of studies. So they looked at a bunch of studies, and there were 20 studies that they were looking at with regard to supplementation with these live bacteria to help replenish that in our colons. Because in our modern world, we have chlorine in the water and antibiotics in our dairy and in our beef. Then we have, oh my goodness, so many other medications, etc., that will actually deplete and mess up the bacteria that should be in certain specific ratios in our colons, and they get messed up. So when we use this supplementation, as I said, it's for immune function and inflammation. And they were looking specifically at studies over time that used the supplementation of a probiotic, these bacteria, and what would happen to inflammation in the body, because inflammation causes several things. 1, causes pain. 2, it is the beginning of just about every disease we know, from cancer to Alzheimer's to arthritis, you name it. The beginning of almost every single disease that humanity suffers from resides in inflammation. Interesting. So if we have this probiotic and supplementation to it, does that affect inflammation? I said it does, but does it really? Well, this study looked at these 20 studies and put the results together. Now, we've all heard one study can show us, oh, this is good, oh, this is bad. Another study shows, oh, this is better. And another study says, this is not, doesn't do anything. So when you put together a body of research, it gives you a much broader, general, more specific look and understanding. And what this actually showed, when they looked at this, published in this journal called Nutrients, is that it looked at and showed us that it significantly reduced, there's a fancy element called C-reactive protein, CRP. It's when we do a blood study, we can actually tell the level of inflammation in your body. It's one of the markers. It's called C-reactive protein, CRP. And what it actually showed was that there was a significant, not just a modest or mild reduction, but that there was significant reduction in CRP levels with the administration of probiotics. Now, all of them too, it didn't get into a specific strain because certain strains do certain things. This is very encouraging because sometimes you have to be very specific on what specific strains of bacteria can do certain things. And we're just starting to understand this interplay, just beginning. It's in its infancy. So we use a broad spectrum probiotic supplement like we do, 14 different strains, and most have 1, 2, 3, sometimes 5. Ours has 14 non-competitive strains in a very potent dose. Right, as I said, most of them would be 3 billion to 5 billion. Sometimes you'll see 10 or 15, but almost never will you see 50 billion bacteria, 14 strains in one supplement. So it has a very potent kick and does this, and we want to bring that inflammation down, which this research shows us it will. Because that inflammation, as I said, does it help with everything from arthritis to Alzheimer's to cancer to you name the disease. We bring inflammation down. Now, it probably does this in a couple of ways. One is when we have abnormal gut bacteria, we get inflamed colons. We also have our immune systems that are significantly curtailed and inhibited from proper function. And one of the ways our immune systems function to kill invaders and abnormal functions is through an inflammatory process. So when this is abnormal, that inflammatory process is brought up, the colon inflames, and we get this generalized inflammation in the body as indicated by the CRP, the C-reactive protein elevation. So if you want to help bring that generalized inflammation down, a significant way to be able to do that is with continued ongoing supplementation with a quality probiotic like what we use here at the office. Any other questions, give an email to drturlip.com. Hit contact us. It comes right to my personal email. Delighted to answer any questions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.